There's a new player within the Ram 1500 lineup in Australia. This is the new Ram 1500 Laramie Sport. It's a mid-level variant designed to compete with the likes of the Chevrolet Silverado and soon the Ford F-150 and Toyota Tundra. Clearly there is ongoing appetite for these full-size pickups in Australia, so let's see how this newcomer compares. Building on humble beginnings with the original $80,000 DS Generation 1500, Ram has become a force in its own right in Australia. And the new Laramie Sport is a bit of an exclamation mark on the trend, slotting between the Ram 1500 Laramie and the Ram 1500 Limited in price and specification. Now, at close to $137,000 before on-road costs, the Ram 1500 Laramie Sport offers some pretty nifty day-to-day trinkets, including those trick electronic side steps, which are deployed every time you step in or out of the vehicle. Now, as the name might suggest to you, the manufacturer says that this vehicle is a nice blend of both luxury and sport, and it certainly reads that way with the styling. There's lots of black highlights across the vehicle, but plenty of flourishes of chrome as well, including those 20-inch wheels. The Ram 1500's warranty and servicing isn't as generous in modern terms, with a limited 3-year, 100,000 kilometre fixture and servicing that will set you back about $2,000 over the first 3 years based on 12-month and shorter 12,000 kilometre intervals. Now, just like every other Ram model in Australia, except for the flagship TRX, what we have under the bonnet is a long-serving 5.7 litre naturally aspirated Hemi V8 engine. You're getting 291 kilowatts and 556 Newton meters, with all that power matched standard to an 8-speed automatic transmission. If you look closely, you'll see that little e-torque logo there. What that is an onboard electric motor which is designed to basically enhance this vehicle's cylinder deactivation technology. So at low idle speeds, it'll basically shut off one bank of cylinders. So it's supposed to enhance that, but it's also supposed to enhance this vehicle's stop-start technology as well. Is it a gimmick or does it work? We'll watch on to find out. The Ram 1500 Laramie Sport really does justify its lofty positioning when it comes to cabin presentation and just the sheer volume of standard equipment that you're getting as well. You jump inside the cabin and it just feels special. There's soft touch materials everywhere you look, heated seats, ventilated seats, great access to all of the key controls, and although it is a truck for all intents and purposes, you could easily mistake it as an SUV with the layout of its cabin. I guess the caveat being it is so big compared to your garden variety SUV. I love the storage that's on offer. They've thought of everything. There's ample charging points, wireless charging, ample cubbies, and lots of space to stow drink bottles, whatever you name it. It's just a really well thought out area. The conversion itself, to be fair, I don't think you'd really pick it. You wouldn't know that this vehicle was originally made in left-hand drive and then reconverted to right-hand drive. They've relocated everything, including the bonnet latch, which sits at the bottom of the steering column. Everything looks really good in person and feels up to spec for a factory conversion. The one caveat here is this squeak on the right-hand side of the center console, but hey, you can't win them all. The Laramie Sport ticks every box where standard equipment is concerned and goes a long way in justifying its price tag with the presentation and general execution of the roomy cabin. Headlining the infotainment on the Ram 1500 Laramie Sport is this. It's a larger 12-inch center display. It's got the portrait orientation and it runs the car maker's latest Uconnect software. So we've also seen this in the likes of the new Jeep Grand Cherokee as well. For me, it works really well. Functionality is great. You've still got a bank of hardwired buttons and switchgear. I bang on about it all the time, but I just think it's an easier way to navigate when you're on the move. So happily, everything is there, together with a volume knob on this side as well. In terms of the conversion process, it hasn't really affected too much because this is a generic flat-facing screen. When you are driving, I'm not the tallest person, so it is a little bit of a reach to some of the controls. The volume knob is still on the left-hand side, so that sort of goes back to this car's left-hand drive origins. The other little bone of contention is this. So the steering wheel heater is still on the left-hand side of the screen instead of the right. But all things considered, I think it's a pretty good execution of the brief. The Ram 1500 covers most basics where infotainment is concerned, with the exception of a head-up display. Likewise, it gets the full complement of safety technology as standard. There was a lot of disbelief in the US when the Ram 1500 was awarded a top luxury award by a US outlet a few years ago, but honestly, when you jump behind the wheel, you can start to understand why. Firstly, oodles and oodles of interior space from the rear seat. Even with this front seat set fairly far back, like easily fit a 6-foot+ person, there's acres of space in the back here. A really open door aperture and window line. It's easy to get in and out of because of those steps, but also because of these big grab rails. And once you're inside, it's like a lounge chair. Big, comfortable, soft at all the contact points, and basically enough storage and everything else. Heated seats in the back, USB, USB-C ports, lots of incidental storage as well. They've really ticked all of the boxes. My one bone of contention though, if you're using child seats, is that there's only one central top tether point, which might sound like a small bone of contention, but it just means that you can't quite get the seats themselves in as snugly as you would with a hard wide point behind each individual seat.
For adult passengers, the rear seats recline and there is no shortage of storage or space.
So one of the real handy inclusions with the Laramie Sport is the standard integration of these. This is the much vaunted Ram box. They're normally a $4,000 option on lesser Ram 1500 variants, but you get it included in this. It's a fully sealed area, 210 litres on this side, 210 litres on the other side. There's a little power point in there as well. You can throw whatever you want in there. It's even sealed so you could throw, theoretically, a heap of ice in there to cool your beers. In terms of the overall size and length of the tray, we've got the official figures here, but you're getting 1.7 metres in length. For me, the key thing was, could I fit a full-size motorbike in with the tailgate up? Unfortunately, with the Ram box fitted, you cannot, but there's plenty of space in there for odds and ends, lots of movable tie-down points, and even this handy tonneau cover. It does a really good job of sealing out dust and water as well as that separator there. It's another handy inclusion. You're able to step up into the tray using this. Pretty handy step. Comes out nicely, but it's a little bit deadly going back in. And the whole surface itself is sealed too, so it's got a really nice sticky surface that works quite well. The key figure for many people, and the thing that people will look at, given the size of this thing, the payload. It's only 779 kilograms, which isn't an awful lot. However, the towing capacity cannot be ignored. 4,500 kilograms if you've got a larger 70mm tow ball, 3,500 kilograms with this one fitted. And the really handy inclusion, I think, is the integration of standard electric trailer brakes. It means you don't have to go and fork out more money for a red arc system, and you're ready to go to tow whatever you need. The Ram suspension tune ultimately feels a little bit disjointed on really heavily corrugated dirt roads. In that instance, we've found it just doesn't quite feel as tight or as well tied down as a smaller vehicle like the Ford Ranger, but all things considered, it's worked really well. Where this vehicle really comes into its own is towing. We've only towed a 2-ton trailer in this particular instance. It goes without saying, it didn't even feel it. But even with a heavier 3.5-ton caravan in tow, it feels really in check. It's a super impressive tow vehicle and there's no mistaking that.
For us, the centerpiece of the driving experience remains that Hemi V8 engine. Its days are ultimately numbered. We talk it will make way for a Turbo 6 in the near future. But until then, power is smooth and plentiful.
That peak figure of 556 Newton meters materializes fairly low on the rev count, and it means that this is a really lazy, unstressed engine. It works with the 8-speed automatic transmission to make light work of around town speeds. It builds through the rev range really confidently, and when you call on it for more power, as I am now through a slightly winding overtaking lane, it has no trouble at all mustering a little bit more energy and enthusiasm. When you really call on it, it is impressive just how much this engine still hauls the mail in what is a very big, very heavy pickup body. Otherwise though, this feels like a really polished driving experience. I mentioned before about the quality of the conversion to right-hand drive in terms of interior presentation. Well, those virtues also carry over to the way that this vehicle drives. There's no obvious knocking from the steering. Everything feels really well modulated for the controls as well. You could easily mistake this as a factory fitted right-hand drive vehicle, and that's basically what it is anyway with the reconversion, but it just feels really polished in the skin, up to OEM spec. In some respects, probably ahead of OEM spec. The steering is really nice and light at low speeds. It weighs up adequately.
Ultimately, the Ram 1500 is a specialist vehicle, and with its ladder frame chassis and solid rear axle, 15-metre turning circle and hulking proportions, the new Laramie Sport is no exception. But as we found on numerous occasions, it tows incredibly well, and it isn't afraid of pulling its weight as a workhorse, a $140,000 one at that.
If you like a little bit of luxury from your full-size pickup, well then the Ram 1500 Laramie Sport is arguably the new pick of the range in the Ram 1500 lineup locally. It has a lot of the trinkets in the more expensive Limited, but it saves a lot on price, and it's not afraid to be a workhorse either. These things have been around for a few years now, but the appeal is as strong as ever.